The headlines today are not isolated events. They are pieces of a pattern. And if you know what to look for, the picture they form should concern every person who values freedom, privacy, and the right to participate in daily life without being tracked, cataloged, or controlled. Let's begin with a technology that most people have never heard of. It's called Ghost Murmur. It is a system currently in development for military applications capable of detecting a human heartbeat from a distance. Not your face, not your phone signal, your heartbeat. Using advanced sensors and artificial intelligence, it can locate a living person even when they are hidden, silent, and completely still. Right now, its developers frame it as a life saving tool, finding downed pilots, locating soldiers behind enemy lines, humanitarian applications, noble purposes. But here's the question you have to ask: when has a technology that powerful ever stayed in its original lane? Think about the trajectory. A life saving military tool becomes a law enforcement tool. A law enforcement tool becomes an intelligence gathering tool. An intelligence gathering tool becomes a civilian monitoring tool. And each phase, each expansion feels reasonable at the time. Each phase normalizes the next. The moment you can locate a human being by their biological signature alone, the moment a heartbeat itself can betray your position, anonymity doesn't just become difficult, it becomes physically impossible. The infrastructure of total control has always needed one final piece: a way to find people who refuse to be found. Ghost Murmur may be that piece. In the meantime, in December 2025, dozens of police officers in Edmonton, Alberta, walked their beats wearing body cameras. Body cameras were sold to the public as accountability tools, cameras that watch police on behalf of the people. That was the promise. Edmonton's experiment broke that promise entirely. Those cameras, manufactured by Axon Enterprise and powered by facial recognition technology from a company called Coresight AI, were silently scanning every face within 4 meters of the officer automatically whenever the officer pressed record, comparing those faces against a watch list of approximately 7,000 people. No one being scanned was told. No one contested. You could walk past an Edmonton police officer on your way to the grocery store, and your face would be checked against a government database before you reach the end of the block. The cameras that were supposed to watch police were now watching you. Edmonton's own privacy assessment admitted this constitutes, in their words, proactive surveillance. A senior researcher at the University of Toronto's Citizen Lab called it likely the most high-risk surveillance program that he's observed to date in Canada. The accountability tool became the surveillance tool, and the cameras are still there. But Edmonton is not alone. This is happening everywhere, and it's moving from the streets into your living room. In Singapore, as of April 1st, 2026, gamers who bought and downloaded Xbox titles, games they paid for, games sitting on their accounts, are now being told they must prove who they are before they can play them. Microsoft's options: a facial age scan, a copy of your government-issued ID, or authentication through Singapore's National Digital Identity System. The price of accessing games you already own is now a biometric selfie or a passport upload. Apple requires a national registration identity card or driver's license. Samsung wants your credit card. Google has gone further than all of them, deploying a machine learning model that silently analyzes your search history, your YouTube viewing patterns, and your behavioral data across every Google platform to estimate your age continuously without asking. They call it age estimation. A more honest description: continuous behavioral profiling, repurposed as an identity check, running in the background of everything you do online. And now, an American congresswoman wants to bring the same system to the United States at scale. H.R. 8250, dressed up with the friendly name Parents Decide Act, would require Apple and Google to verify the age of every single person who sets up a device in America. Not just children, everyone, adults included. No opt out. Your date of birth becomes the entry fee for turning on a phone. So, what happens to that data afterward? Well, Congress has handed that question to the FTC to answer within 180 days of passage. The surveillance infrastructure would be built first. The rules for it? Well, that would come later. The bill's own text covers not just phones and tablets, but laptops, gaming consoles, smart TVs, and cars with infotainment systems. Every device, every screen, every interface you use to access the modern world, identified first, permitted second. And while the devices are being enrolled, the communications have already been compromised. FISA Section 702 is an American law that allows intelligence agencies to collect the communications of foreign targets. It also sweeps up the emails, texts, and phone calls of American citizens, and then allows the FBI to search the database without getting a warrant. Section 702 is expiring, and the push to renew it with 0 reforms attached is now being led by House Speaker Mike Johnson, Senate Chairman Chuck Grassley, and President Trump himself, who posted on Truth Social calling on Republicans to pass a clean extension with no changes. The numbers are not abstract. FBI queries targeting Americans' private data rose 35% in 2025 alone. A federal court ruled in 2025 that the Fourth Amendment requires a warrant before searching Section 702 data for American communications. Congress's response? An 18-month extension, no warrant required, no reforms, and no deadline to get it right, because they've already missed 2 years of the deadline they created for themselves. The agency running more warrantless searches of Americans' data than at any point in history is asking for more time and fewer rules, and it appears that they're going to get it. But if you think this is only about technology, look what's happening in courtrooms and legislatures. In Germany, a proposal is being seriously considered that would allow local authorities, backed by intelligence agencies, to block individuals from purchasing property if they are suspected of holding what the government defines as anti-constitutional views. It's not convicted, not charged, not even accused of a crime. Suspected. Germany's domestic intelligence service would be authorized to share personal data with municipalities, inserting national security apparatus into the decision of whether a family is allowed to buy a home. The definition of anti-constitutional is not fixed in the bill. It is left open, subject to interpretation, subject to political winds. History tells us exactly where that leads. Meanwhile, in California, the State Assembly Judiciary Committee voted 11-2 to advance AB 2624, a bill critics have dubbed the Stop Nick Shirley Act. Nick Shirley is a citizen journalist who uncovered more than $110 million in Somali daycare fraud in Minnesota in December 2025. Empty facilities billing taxpayers while children were nowhere to be found. In March 2026, he exposed another $170 million in similar fraud in California daycares and hospices. Ghost operations registered to empty lots and strip malls, billing the government. AB 2624 would make that kind of journalism effectively illegal. Investigators could face civil sanctions starting at $4,000 minimum, tripling to $12,000 if they refuse to remove the original video. In the most serious case, criminal charges and $10,000 fines for filming in public, for telling the truth. Instead of fixing the fraud, California wants to punish the people exposing it. The United Kingdom's Foreign Affairs Committee has issued a formal recommendation: create a statutory government-funded national counter-disinformation center with the power to monitor, identify, and counter what officials define as false information online. The committee's report names Russia, China, Iran, and non-state actors like Daesh as threats. It warns that the UK is wide open to disinformation and calls the situation the new warfare. No one is disputing that foreign disinformation is real. But the question, the one that keeps getting skipped over, is who decides what's true? Which government agency gets to draw the line between disinformation and dissent? Between a foreign influence operation and a journalist asking uncomfortable questions? A national counter-disinformation center would answer that question, and it would answer it on the behalf of the government. Now, back in America and Massachusetts, lawmakers are advancing the Freedom to Move Act, legislation that would require the State Department of Transportation to establish official targets for reducing the number of miles that residents drive. Framed around climate goals, the bill proposes investments in trains, buses, ferries, and bikes as alternatives to personal vehicles. Supporters say it imposes no penalties and no direct limits for now. But the principle being established that the government has a role in shaping and measuring how far its citizens travel in their own vehicles, well, that's a new one. And principles like technologies rarely stay where they start. So let's add it all up. A technology that can find you by your heartbeat. Body cameras that can scan your face without asking. Xbox demanding your passport. A bill that would require Apple and Google to verify every American's identity before they turn on a device. The FBI searching your emails without a warrant, and Congress preparing to let them keep doing it. A country where your beliefs could block you from buying a home. A law that would punish journalists for filming fraud in public. A government agency to decide what is true online, and legislation to track how far you drive. Each of these presented alone isn't even manageable or reasonable, but they're calling it a safety measure, a security upgrade, protecting children, fighting extremism, battling disinformation. Line them all up together, they form the architecture of something that has a name. It is a world where you are known, located, tracked, verified, and assessed before you are permitted. Where the right to speak, to own, to move, and to access the tools of modern life is conditional on compliance with systems you did not vote for and cannot fully see. The grid is not coming. The grid is being built right now in headlines most people scroll past without reading twice. The surveillance right now is off the charts. And it's all in preparation for the tribulation period, most specifically right after the rapture. But those are your headlines for today. I'd love to hear from all of you. Tell me what you guys think of the show today. Do you feel as if you're being tracked, surveilled, documented? Let me know in the comments. Also, don't forget to come and visit me on my social media pages as well as my website. And also, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And until next time, God bless and stay safe.